Listen only to the sound of my voice. Let your mind relax. Let your thoughts drift. Imagine yourself in a frozen forest.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Black Ops 3 realistic difficulty walkthrough. This is mission 10, it's the Lotus Tower. There are 2 videos in this particular chapter. This mission really reminds me of the Judge Dredd movie and a little bit of Raid Redemption, the crazy Indonesian film by the Welsh director guy. And I think it's a really fun mission, and it's not too tricky, but at the same time, this is unrealistic, so any potential checkpoint can become hell very easily, and it's just how the game functions. I pick up the Weevil here, which is essentially a future P90, and I think it's a pretty good gun. It's not so great in the campaign. It seems pretty good in the multiplayer. I really like it in zombies, because in zombies the more bullets the more better usually, and it can be really good at clearing out some zombies. But as we push through here, there's going to be oh, I should not entertain myself as much as I do, but I do, and that is my crutch. So after we smash that guy's head and chuck him off a balcony in about 5 seconds, we're going to be pushing on for the rest of this. And if you've seen the full cutscene, it's essentially inciting this rebellion, this revolution from the people of Egypt. And because they're being oppressed by, Future and Gravity and whatever else. It's been a while since I played this campaign now, so the story's kind of... And even then, this particular moment, when we go into this and it's like this civil war in Egypt, it doesn't give you a lot of backstory other than that there are warring factions and that this guy, who we saved on the very first mission back before we were all Super Cyber Soldier Man, is important and was once a freedom fighter / liberation leader thing. And he's doing it again, apparently, which involves banging a poor man's face into some glass and chucking him off a very, very high roof. But we don't need to care about that, because this is realistic mode, and we die in a bullet, and we're killing dudes, and we're using the skull face that is vomiting as the ability, because it's fantastic. And we're using the KN-44, which was apparently called the ARC-7 in the multiplayer of the beta, and I think the ARC-7 sounds like so much more of a future gun to me. So I don't know why they changed that. KN just sounds dumb as shit. Maybe there was a copyright feud or some other licensing that enabled them to not do that. I don't know. But Lotus Tower, what is there to fear in this mission? Not a lot, really, other than there is a pretty long checkpoint coming up, but it's only long because it's not very fun, and if you die, you go back quite a large distance. But after that, the only real thing you're going to probably struggle with is the boss against the vehicle, the aerial vehicle. And it is tricky. At first you're kind of like, wow, how do I do this bullshit? This thing's taking so many hits, I die so fast, and it's just, this is not working out at all. The cover's not great, I can't really figure out what's keeping me alive. And then as soon as you figure out one of the pieces of cover that will survive a rocket and not destroy, that's when you realise how to win. And then as soon as I figured out a piece of cover that did that, I didn't get splashed from behind it, and I beat him on that very attempt. So I've got a pretty good strategy here for you in the second video, but until we get there, there's going to be a lot of chest-high wall shooting. So as you see right now, we're in the kill box, we're using the clutter. The level design here is both against you and with you. It gives you a lot of things to stick your chin on, but it also gives you a lot of opportunities to miss where the enemies are, a lot of times where you don't quite see them. And there's a lot of civilians too, so it can be tricky to see who's friend and who's foe. And if you kill too many civs, you will fail, because this game is like, yo dog, you're meant to be a hero, you can't kill the civs. And I don't know, guys, when you look into modern military practices, there's a lot of civ killing, there really is. There's a lot of collateral damage, there's a lot of unfortunate friendly fire. There is a whole host of things that aren't meant to happen, that happen. Yet in the video games, we can't have that, even though in the reals, this shit happens. We're not going to be all overly sensitive on it, because it fucking happens, dude. People have guns, some people don't. The ones who don't have guns occasionally catch bullets. It sucks, it's really sad, but until we come to a part in human history where we don't feel this constant need to force things on other people and save, I say save very, very, shall we say ironically, then we'll probably still give the ones who don't have guns the bullets from the ones who do have guns. But in a video game, you would think we would have a little bit of a liberty, but I suppose it's it's a nice thing, you know, not having you be a complete maniac the entire playthrough. Quite like this iron sight as well. I think it's called the ELO sight, this particular optic. It's quite new to me. It's very like Black Ops 2-y, I feel. It definitely has that vibe. But this is the checkpoint that's really long. So, you notice how we were stood on that lift, and then we moved on to this area and started killing dudes? Well, you don't get a checkpoint here until you've completely done this entire L-shaped environment, killed all the raps, killed all the robots, all that stuff. And it's a pretty long sequence too, because it's hard to see enemies, and a lot of the enemies are crouched behind obstacles, and if you push up too quickly, they'll just instantly kill you before you realise they were there. Turns out Johnny Five's a douche, and he's dangerous. But here come the raps, which are absolutely hilarious if you've ever used them in the multiplayer. It's so strange too, because they appear in zombies, they appear in campaign, and they appear in multiplayer. This enemy appears in literally every game mode. It's crazy. And all they are a crazy spiky ball that rolls towards enemies. Some kind of, you know, proximity-based, sensor-based crazy machine. And if you remember the beginning of, I forget the name of it, the level where we had to use the stake driver machine, I left in a cutscene where a guy got murked by a crazy bunch of like barbed blades. That came from a rap. When a rap explodes, it's essentially a moving shrapnel bomb of doom, future doom. And it's really nasty looking. I wonder if there's anything like that in modern warfare at the moment, because I suppose we don't really know what DARPA's working on, and the people who are more secretive than DARPA and what have you, because a lot of the technology that you see on the news is probably like 10 to 15 years old at this point, because you know that half the great technology they won't share with us until we can, you know, safely utilise it. There's a pretty cool part of this game where the guy in the storyline says, do you have any idea just how much the technology we have today makes it pretty much every aspect of society at risk? You have no idea, you know, how this connectivity affects your safety. And you don't, really, when you think about it. So, taking that perspective, that's probably why the technology takes so long to become public, because a lot of it is, you know, designed for military purposes, and of course we don't want to give that to people, because military purposes is just a really polite way of saying we're going to fucking kill you because your skin's different, or you speak different, or you don't believe in our fairies. Because that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? You've got something that I disagree with, so I'm going to use force to tell you that you shouldn't like it. There you go. That is life, folks. Life of Brian right there. Ooh, this is the Executioner, so if you've used this, this is also a specialist perk in the multiplayer. It is a one-hit kill weapon. It's okay, I guess. It's good at shooting down at UAVs, but out of all the one-hit kill stuff, I don't think it's probably one you should pick in multiplayer outside of diversity. Because one of them is an arc cannon that's a one-hit kill and it spreads between people. One of them is an explosive bow that can kill more than one person if you hit them right. So I don't know why you would ever choose that Magnum unless it's got collateral with it and it kills more than one in a line. Like, it seems like a very almost generic choice, and there's a lot of that in the multiplayer. Some of the specialist stuff is legitimately interesting, like the glitch. I think the glitch is one of the coolest things I've seen in a multiplayer, because you can effectively run into a bad situation and live. Oh, by the way, you see this? That right there, one of the hardest parts of the game. If you die, is entirely up to the game. I have no idea why it does it, but there are times when you will shoot before you've even got your gun up, and you'll just get instantly murdered. You'll get Sean Connery'd, you'll get insert film moment where guy didn't do so well, Willem Dafoe platoon, whatever you want to say. You will get dead. Dead in the face. But clear out this room, and then there's going to be an interesting moment where a wall busts down and there's a few robots, but there's not as much as I thought there was going to be. So you're going to see me show you a super sneaky area to hide, but this isn't a massive defense moment, and I thought it was going to be, so you don't have to use it. But I liked it so much I put it in the walkthrough, as I'm trying to check out some different guns here and, you know, hopefully get something cool to tool around with. What's that, the Haymaker? That is a shotgun. It's a really good shotgun as well. I've seen Sandy Ravage run around with this, and on PC it looks absolutely broken. So apparently people think it's going to get patched, because if you have the attachments to give it range and damage, it's fully automatic. So you just run around just murking dudes. It's pretty crazy. But I've got a side shotgun now, so I am happy. Press the button, and let's get to hiding once I've finished checking everything. So this is me checking over here. Is this good enough? No, that's not good enough hiding spot. But guess what is? This one. Look at that. The perfect hiding spot. Nobody can kill me here. And that's what I'm going to use for this most anticlimactic fight in the game. So here is a little vignette. The moment this ends, I run over here, I sit behind this, and then I realise that there's no reason to do so, because there's only about 2 dudes. I was hoping this was going to be a crazy defend moment, like 3 minutes of pure terror, and I was just going to sit here like, la-di-da. So try and push off these things so I can see. But there it is, it was done. Didn't even duo. Send out the swarm, expecting it to be all... Yeah, look at that. So anticlimactic. But in the grand scheme of things, would you rather it be like that, or be like that previous mission where we were just laying and praying on our belly? I know which one I would like. As our screen starts to go crazy, as our DNI is affected, and it starts glitching out. If you notice how the artifacts on the screens in games don't really look that good. Never looks great, I don't think. The only game that's ever really done it well for me personally was Kane and Lynch 2. And Kane and Lynch 2 is a game that a lot of people love to hate, and I think it's a nice game, it's just flawed. But the visual aesthetic of that, and all the crappy graininess and artifacts on the screen, such a beautiful aesthetic, I love it. And no game has done it since, and it makes me really sad. Because all the optical flares, all the crazy distortions and all that, all the colour imbalances, I really like those features. And does it affect gameplay? 100% yes. Makes it very difficult to see. But does it look beautiful? Oh yes it does, I think. It's one of those things where it's actually really hard to make something look shitty. It's hard to make good shit. It's true. Like, have you ever been in Photoshop and you've tried to make something look distorted or grainy and dirty and grimy, and there's a massive margin between it just looking like you've gone into Paint and had a spaz attack and actually meticulously made something that looks just pleasing. It's a lot harder than you would think, and anybody who is good at subtly making things look damaged and what have you, it's a really, really big skill. And there's a guy by the name, I think he's Travis Smith, he's a designer who does a lot of metal album covers. And if you've ever seen his Opeth album covers or his Catatonia album covers, like any of his album covers really, but he has this true gift of making everything look aged. It really does look like you've inherited it, like it's been in a dusty box for many years. And the guy uses some beautiful photography and some fantastic compositing work, and I literally wanted to be that dude for a very long time throughout college. Because that was one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to make album covers. Because I didn't realise how unrealistically viable that is as a career. Because you've got to do a shit ton of them. And they don't pay that well. Even though, you know, art is one of those weird things, isn't it? Where you look at some Turner Prize winning piece of shit. This is essentially somebody just wiped their ass on some paper and then said it was something to do with the war. It was, you know, a diatribe against feminism, and boom, sells for millions. Yet some dude makes the most amazing art for a video game or an album cover and nobody bats a fucking eyelid and wants it for a $5. Like, come on, dude. I hate how art is like that, how it's this massively just bizarre thing. It's always the stuff that I don't think even looks like art that is the most valuable. And even some of the greats, even some of the masters, like I respect the fact that they went outside of the norm and conventions and they completely created these new genres, these new ways of interpreting our world on canvas and what have you. But I look at some of them and I'm like, I wouldn't want that on my fucking wall. It looks like a child drew it. Like if a kid brought that back from school, it wouldn't even go on the fridge. You'd be taking the child to the doctor being like, is my kid okay? Because he can't draw for shit. And I thought he was going to be artistic. And then they try and say, well, autism is a very serious illness. No. Artistic, bitch. I thought he was going to be able to draw and make me some money. Why do you think I had this child? I want him to carry me. But it's weird, isn't it, how it works like that? How these things go for ridiculous amounts of money. Ridiculous amounts of money. And you look at it and you're like, dude can't even draw a fucking tree. Can't even draw a tree. Ridiculous. I've got a postcard that's got a better tree on it than that. And you know how much it cost me? 59 pence. And you want 5.9 million. Suck my dick. It's so weird. The way we value things is weird. We're a culture obsessed with paper. You notice that? Obsessed. 100% deluded into believing that paper is real. And you might be thinking, well, of course paper's real, Chris. I read one earlier on the bus. And I'm not saying newspaper. Of course newspaper is real. I'm talking money, guys. Money. Paper. Plastic. That thing that had no value until the Monopoly man said you did not pass go and you did not collect it. Well, the Monopoly man here is modern life, and modern life is obsessed with it. Completely obsessed with it. And it's ultimately for naught, because money means nothing. It really doesn't. It just, the world runs on it like a vampire. It is essentially the plasma and blood to the sanguinary leech. It's ridiculous. And art is one of those crazy driving forces for it. Like, have you ever watched the Antiques Roadshow and somebody comes on and they've literally got something that looks like it came from a war, and a bad war too. There are no good wars, but I mean a really bad war, like all the way up there, you know, the bad ones. And you think, wow, that is horrible. That literally looks like sorrow combined. And then it goes for a ridiculous amount of money, and the old person's like, oh my god, I can't believe I was about to throw this away. And we're all like, I know you're about to throw this away because it looks like a piece of shit. It looks like calcified dog turd. That's what that looks like. Yeah, it's a pocket watch from, you know, Jimi Hendrix's dad, who lived for 1,000 years because he found out the Enochian secret, and thus he was alive during, you know, the Civil War or whatever. And that's when he buried it in his own feces, and that's why it looks like the calcified piece of dog shit. But these weird things that have this crazy value. And we gave it. It didn't have any value to begin with. The only things that really have value are things that have actual value, like food. You don't eat, you die, you know? You don't have shelter, you freeze. Or you overheat or whatever. You know? That's the real value. Holding a leaf over your head intrinsically has more function and more value than a grand of monies, if you take away the association that we've given it. The agency we've given money is the very reason why money is the root of all evil, as I fuck up the jump here. Because we've given it this importance it didn't deserve, and we've gone from a system of everybody banding together and helping each other in a tribal sense to fuck you, I want all the money. And I don't really think that that's a survival perspective. I don't. I think that's... It breeds ostracism, it breeds elitism, and it breeds class systems. And we love class systems because when there's no race to put your fellow man down, what do? You say, you don't have as much money as me, so you deserve to clean my boots. There you go, friend. And that's life in a teacup. A very, very hateful teacup that wants you to fail. Unless you're on the X Factor with your family, and then they'll want you to succeed. But that's because they're delusional, because you can't sing. But right here, I did a very particular thing. I jumped up there to spawn the big fella, and then I dropped down here to clip the big fella. So what we're going to do is we're going to clip his wings from a safe distance, and he cannot hurt us. From down here, if you use this hedge glitch correctly, which is essentially the thing that's stopping him from shooting us, you will not die, and you will win. Once he is dead, you'll have no issue here. If you have the ability to hack a robot, you can hack this guy. So you can do that and clear out everybody else. There are a lot of ways to play this game, guys, and that's one of the greatest merits of it. However, you'll not hear too much about that in the reviews because they'll tell you that it's all superfluous. Because they played on fucking Recruit, and you could have played with your forehead. You literally could. You could have given your controller to your dog, and he could have got through this game on Recruit and told you that didn't make a difference. I'm going to tell you they do. They make a big difference. But if you're playing on a difficulty where the game plays itself, how can you judge how a game plays? It's playing itself. And I'm sorry, modern reviewer man, but you're not doing a good enough job, and you are in an exalted position of power. You influence so many people's decisions on what to buy, it's not even funny. Because unfortunately, they're too ignorant to either do the research themselves or to know somebody who's done the research themselves. And ignorance is not a bad thing, guys. It is not an insult unless it becomes harmful. If your ignorance is the ignorance that says, I'm not going to give my daughter antibiotics, I'm going to rain dance, I'm going to burn hair in a hollow, shrunken skull, and I'm going to pray to St. Peter because St. Peter is really good at getting rid of infections. If you're doing that, that is called harmful ignorance. You might call it faith, you might call it mumbo-jumbo, you might call it whatever you want to call it. I call it bullshit and dangerous. Get those antibiotics. That's harmful ignorance. Just being ignorant of something is called being alive. We're all ignorant of everything, really. And in the grand scheme of things, there is no such thing as a fact. It is just empirical evidence that a lot of people we respect and look up to have agreed is right. Does it mean it's right? Hell no. Nothing's right. Everything is an interpretation. Everything is just a different angle of perception. Like right now, I'm shooting dudes in a video game. This is just blips and blops to some people. Blips and blops, that doesn't mean a damn thing. I once sat down with a so-called friend of mine who, not really a friend of mine at all, who went on to tell me that, you know, video games were just blips and blops and, you know, they're for children, essentially. Yeah, this is the same person that spent a good 17 years of his life doing things for children. So it's wonderful how the mind can change when one gets delusions of grandeur, isn't it? This is a little tricky, this part, as well, because the cover's not great and there's a lot of people above you, so you want to use these these support structures here that I'm hiding behind to pepper some shots down range and to take these dudes on. But there's not too many enemies, and you're coming to the end of the first sequence of the Lotus Tower. Second sequence is a lot of crazy suicide running past robots, and then it's a boss fight, which is a lot harder than it seems. Sorry, it seems a lot harder than it is, sorry. And bloody hell, I just went to crack my elbow and I nearly broke my arm. That was not good. Ooh, goodness me, ever done that? Wow. When you think you're going to feel the satisfying crack and you don't, you feel an unsatisfying pain. That's not good. But we'll live. We are weapons of conditioning. We will persevere and survive. Because it's what we do, guys. It's what we do best. And we're really good at it, you know. We've been here a while. We haven't been here as long as some things, but we've been here much longer than others. That was great. Whenever you get a big spawn of robots like that and you have immolation, it is literally just the dinner queue. I love it. It's too good. But you'll notice I'm being incredibly tentative here because the checkpoint is probably not in our favour, because none of them have been. And I was watching Let's Endure, which is a series that people have done. The detractors of Darkside Phil have essentially commentated over the This Is How You Don't Play series of videos. And the one that they were doing, that I was watching last night while I was playing some Fallout, is Jak 2, which is a game I never played. I played the Precursor's Legacy, which was the first one, back when it first came out on PS2. Never played Jak 2, but I hear it's incredibly hard because the checkpoints and the controls, and it's a very antiquated game that is difficult in a way that's not necessarily the most fun, even though it looks, for all intents and purposes, like a Mario game, doesn't it? It looks like a game that's tailored for younger people, which is not true. And there are no checkpoints in that game, so Phil spends a lot of his time playing complaining about the checkpoints, which a lot of the times I think it's valid. As long as you put your perspective out there, it's valid. If you're going to use it as an opportunity to be funny, and Phil does advertise his commentary as improvisational comedy, believe it or not, then I think he should be okay, but he didn't seem to be doing a very compelling job of entertaining or being humorous. It was just kind of complaining for complaining's sake, which there is a place for that if it's done interestingly, and I don't think it was. So they were chastising him a lot for that, but very strange series of videos. They make me laugh, and that's pretty much the reason I exist. So thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.